Hey, I just want to show you guys a little bit about multicolored text and why you might use it. One thing I see a lot of in this project is small titles, and you'll notice in many of your examples in assignment 1 where you looked at and analyzed a poster, you'll see that the titles generally are pretty large. So I just took one of your images. So congrats to whoever's images this is, and nice piece. And I'm going to add a multi-layered text over top of it so that we get a contrast of value and it's readable. So if I turn off, say, one of these layers, and I just have black text, you can tell that in the shadow areas especially it's hard to read. So I added white. And it's pretty easy to do. One thing I do want to mention is when you're using font in Pixlr, go to image size, you can see that I've shrunk down using the web size version of the picture. So say you took a picture of something, and even with your iPhone, and you brought it in here and you hadn't edited it already or made it smaller, you can have a really big picture, like 3,000 pixels, and the font tool doesn't go quite that large. One of the problems with that is that you're going to have pixelated text. So make sure to shrink down your picture. Pixel is really meant just for web use, so everything has to be smaller on the web, so it loads. Okay, so how you do this thing is I'm going to turn off in the layers. You have a little checkbox here. I'm going to turn off those two and make a new one. I'm going to use the text tool, and in this unit you'll already have learned how to use the text tool, but just type in. You can change the size here. I think it goes up to like 130, so that's actually pretty big. That's pretty nice. And hit OK. You like it where it is, and you can use the move tool to put it into the position you want. So it's really dark here, can't really read it, or maybe here's at the bottom like this in a really dark area, but you still need some contrast. Just take in the layer that you just made, that type layer, drag it to this little folded piece of paper right next to the trash can, and that just makes a copy of that layer. Now with the new one on the top highlighted, just go and highlight it, make it white, or whatever contrasting color you need, something like this. That looks right. Okay, so I have two layers. I turn them off, a white one and a black one. Now we have to rasterize the text in order to manipulate it, because type isn't a raster image. So we go and select the first layer, go to the layer menu right in the middle, rasterize layer. Do the same thing for here, and you'll notice that it goes from looking like a letter icon to a little checkerboard, and that's the same in Photoshop, by the way. I think you just have to right click it in Photoshop. If you're using Photoshop, you'll just have to right click in the layer and rasterize type. So this is the same process. Okay, so now I can erase what I need to using the eraser, and I'm going to use also the lasso, polygonal lasso, and I want it to be dark font in this area. I mean, this reads okay. There'll be some instances where it doesn't read at all. So if I erase out that white top layer, I'm looking pretty good. Do the same thing for maybe over here it needs to be black or something like that. And just one thing to note, that if you do this and then you go, now I want to move the layer around, you can always repaint. So that looks a little too cut off. I would have left the white there, but at least here the space doesn't work. And if you look at my original layer when it was up on top, move this down, you can see it reads a lot better because the black picks up well against the white space, and the white picks up very well against the black shapes. So last thing is make sure your type and your font size is really big, especially for titles. It's really important that it's large, and don't be afraid to overlap stuff with your title. So anyway, that's how you do multi-layered, multicolored type in Pixlr and Photoshop.